The air conditioning in Kenneth Okafor's glass office hummed softly as he stared at the invitation in his hands. Gold-embossed letters announced his wedding to Veronica Williams at the prestigious Transcorp Hilton Hotel in Abuja. 500 guests. International caterers. A diamond ring worth 15 million naira. Everything was perfect. Except for one problem sitting in his waiting room. His mother. Kenneth pressed the intercom. "Tell her I'm in a meeting." His secretary's uncomfortable voice crackled back. "Sir, I already told her that twice. She says she'll wait all day if she has to." Kenneth cursed under his breath. He should have known. Adunni Okafor was nothing if not persistent. The same stubbornness that had made her wake at 4 a.m. every morning to extract palm oil from kernels in their village near Enugu, the same determination that had kept her working when other women her age were resting, now brought her to his office unannounced. He hadn't seen her in 8 months. Fine. Send her in. The woman who entered bore little resemblance to the polished socialites Kenneth now surrounded himself with. Adunni wore a simple Ankara wrapper and blouse, her headscarf neatly tied but faded from years of washing. Her hands, rough and callous from decades of labor, clutched a small bag. "Kenneth, my son." She moved to embrace him. He stepped back. "Mama, what are you doing here? I told you I'd send for you when the time was right." The hurt in her eyes made him look away. "The time was right?" Adunni's voice trembled. "Your wedding is in 2 weeks, and you haven't invited your own mother? It's complicated." "What is complicated about inviting the woman who raised you?" She reached into her bag and pulled out a small wooden box. "I brought you this. Your father's wedding ring. I saved it for you all these years thinking." "Mama, stop." Kenneth held up his hand. "I can't accept that." "Why not?" "Because Veronica would laugh if she saw that simple bronze ring. Because her father, Chief Raymond Williams, owned half of Abuja's commercial properties and would mock such a humble offering. Because everything about his past, the village, the palm oil trade, the poverty, threatened the new identity Kenneth had built. Because I already have everything arranged," Kenneth said instead. Adunni's eyes searched her son's face. "You're ashamed of me. Don't be dramatic. Then why haven't you brought Veronica to meet me? Why does her family not know I exist?" Adunni's voice rose. "I sold everything, Kenneth. Our land, our house, your father's motorcycle, everything. So you could study business in Port Harcourt. And this is how you repay me." "I'll repay you in money," Kenneth said coldly. "Name your price." The slap came so fast he barely saw it. His mother had never hit him before, not even when he was a mischievous child. The sting on his cheek was nothing compared to the look in her eyes. "I don't want your money," Adunni whispered. "I want my son back." She left the wooden box on his desk and walked out, her wrapper swishing behind her. Kenneth stood alone in his office, the imprint of his mother's hand still burning on his face. He picked up the box, opened it, and saw the simple ring inside. A ring his father had bought with 3 months' wages, a ring that represented love without pretense. He closed the box and shoved it in his drawer. That evening, Kenneth drove to the Williams family mansion in Maitama. The sprawling estate made his own penthouse look modest. Chief Williams greeted him with a cigar and a glass of cognac. "Kenneth, my boy. Come. Veronica is upstairs getting pampered. You know how women are before weddings." The chief laughed, his belly shaking. They settled in the study, surrounded by leather-bound books Chief Williams had never read and art he'd bought because interior designers told him to. "I wanted to discuss something with you, sir," Kenneth began. "No need for formalities. You're family now. Call me Raymond." "Raymond, then. My mother wants to attend the wedding." Chief Williams's jovial expression flickered. "Your mother? I thought you said your parents passed away." I may have misled you. She's alive. She lives in Enugu." "I see." The chief's eyes narrowed. "And what does your mother do?" "She's retired now, but she used to." "Let me guess. Market woman? Trader? Perhaps she sells something roadside." Kenneth's silence was answer enough. Chief Williams stood, walking to the window. "Kenneth, I like you. You're smart, ambitious, self-made. That's why I approved this marriage. But Veronica is my only daughter. She grew up with the best of everything. The Williams name means something in this country. I understand, sir. Do you? Because bringing some village woman to this wedding, having her mix with ministers and senators. The chief turned. It would be embarrassing. For you, for us, for everyone. So what do you suggest? Tell her not to come. If she insists. Chief Williams smiled coldly. Find a way to make her understand her place. Kenneth drove home that night with the chief's words echoing in his mind. His phone rang. His younger sister Grace calling from Enugu. Kenneth. Mama came home crying. What did you do to her? Stay out of this, Grace. She gave you everything. How can you treat her like this? You wouldn't understand. You're still living in that village mentality. Village mentality? Is that what you call family loyalty now? Grace's voice broke. You know what? Come to your wedding. Marry your fancy wife. But don't expect Mama or me to watch you destroy yourself. She hung up. Kenneth poured himself a drink and stood on his balcony, overlooking Abuja's glittering lights. Somewhere in this city, his mother was probably crying herself to sleep in whatever cheap hotel she'd found. Somewhere in Enugu, his sister was comforting her. But they didn't understand. They couldn't see what he saw. An opportunity to finally escape the shadow of poverty, to become someone who mattered, to never again be pitted or looked down upon. Whatever it took, he would protect this new life. Even if it meant breaking his mother's heart. The wedding invitation on his coffee table caught the light, gold letters promising a perfect future. What it didn't say was the price Kenneth was willing to pay for that perfection. His phone buzzed. A text from Veronica. Daddy told me about your mother's situation. Don't worry, baby. We'll handle it together. I have the perfect solution. Trust me. Kenneth smiled, feeling relieved. Veronica always knew what to do. He had no idea he just made the biggest mistake of his life. The Transcorp Hilton ballroom sparkled like something from a fairy tale. Crystal chandeliers cast rainbow lights across pristine white drapery. Roses imported from Amsterdam filled every corner with perfume. The guest list read like a who's who of Nigerian power. Senators, business magnates, Nollywood stars, and society's elite. Kenneth stood at the altar in his custom-tailored tuxedo, watching guests arrive in their designer agbatas and evening gowns. Beside him, Benson, his childhood friend and best man, shifted uncomfortably. Kenneth, I heard your mother is here, Benson whispered. Security stopped her at the entrance. I know. Veronica said she'd handle it. Handle it how? Before Kenneth could answer, Veronica appeared backstage in her wedding dress, a masterpiece of French lace worth 30 million naira. But instead of preparing for her entrance, she was speaking urgently with her father and the wedding planner. Kenneth excused himself and joined them. What's wrong? Veronica's perfectly made-up face showed calculated concern. Baby, your mother is causing a scene at the entrance. She's demanding to be let in. I'll tell security to. Wait. Veronica placed a manicured hand on his arm. I have a better idea. You said you wanted to teach her humility, right? To understand her place. Kenneth frowned. I never said that exactly. Let her in, Veronica said, her voice sweet as poisoned honey. But on one condition. 10 minutes later, the grand ballroom fell silent as the wedding coordinator made an announcement. Ladies and gentlemen, before we begin, the groom has a special request. Kenneth Okafor wishes to share a personal moment about the power of forgiveness and redemption. Kenneth walked to the microphone, his heart pounding. This wasn't what he'd planned. But Veronica had been so persuasive, so certain this was the right approach. Thank you all for being here, he began, his voice steady despite his nerves. Today is a day of joy but also of truth. I want to share with you all a story about my past. The crowd leaned forward, intrigued. Many of you know me as a successful businessman. What you don't know is that I came from nothing. My father died when I was young, leaving my mother to raise me and my sister alone. He paused. But my mother, she made choices. Difficult choices. She chose her own survival over her children's well-being. She sent me to live with relatives while she pursued her own interests. For years I struggled, working odd jobs, sleeping wherever I could find space. Gasps rippled through the audience. In the back of the ballroom, near the entrance, a dunny stood frozen in shock. This wasn't true. None of it was true. She'd never abandoned her children, never sent Kenneth away. She'd worked herself to the bone to keep her family together. Mama! Grace clutched her mother's arm. He's lying. Why is he lying? However, Kenneth continued, today my mother has come to seek forgiveness, and I, being a man of grace, have decided to give her an opportunity to show her remorse. The massive doors at the back of the ballroom opened, and security guards escorted Adunni into view. 500 guests turned to stare. Mama! Kenneth's voice echoed through the sound system. If you truly wish to be part of this celebration, if you truly seek my forgiveness for the pain you caused, then walk to me. But walk on your knees, so everyone can see your humility. The ballroom erupted in whispers. This is too much, Benson muttered, moving toward Kenneth. Stop this now. But Veronica's brothers blocked his path, smiling coldly. Adunni stood at the entrance, her 60-year-old body trembling. Around her, guests pulled out their phones, cameras ready. She could walk away. She should walk away. But if she did, she might never see her son again. And despite everything, despite the lies, despite the humiliation, he was still her son. Kenneth, please, Adunni's voice cracked. I never abandoned you. You know this is not true. Then prove your love, Mama. Crawl. Aunt Adetutu, Adunni's younger sister who had come from Enugu, pushed through the crowd. Adunni, don't do this. Let's go home. This boy is not worth it. But Adunni slowly lowered herself to her knees. The cold marble floor bit into her old bones. She placed her palms flat and began to crawl. The ballroom was silent except for the clicking of cameras and the soft sound of Adunni's breathing. Each movement was agony. Her knees screamed in pain. Her arms shook with effort. But she continued, one hand in front of the other, down the long aisle decorated with roses that cost more than she'd earned in a year. Tears streamed down Grace's face as she watched her mother's degradation. I'll never forgive him for this. Never. At the altar, Kenneth watched, his expression unreadable. Inside, something was tearing apart. This wasn't how he'd imagined it. Veronica had said it would be a simple gesture, a quick moment of humility. She'd made it sound almost dignified. This was torture. Kenneth, Benson grabbed his arm. Stop her. This is wrong. You know it's wrong. It's too late, Kenneth whispered, watching his mother's slow progress. She's already halfway here. Veronica smiled beside him, her eyes cold and victorious. This was better than she'd planned. The humiliation was complete, total. Kenneth's past was being buried right here, right now, crawling on its knees. Finally, after 10 minutes that felt like 10 hours, Adunni reached the altar. She remained on her knees, looking up at her son with eyes that held no anger, only unbearable sadness. I have crawled for you, my son, she said in Igbo, loud enough for the front rows to hear. As I crawled through poverty to raise you. As I crawled through shame to educate you. As I crawled through pain to give you life. This is nothing new. I have always crawled for you. The words hit Kenneth like physical blows. You may sit in the back, he managed to say, his voice hoarse. Security guards helped Adunni to a chair in the last row, far from the family section, isolated and alone. Grace rushed to sit beside her, glaring at her brother with undisguised hatred. The ceremony continued. Kenneth and Veronica exchanged vows. The pastor pronounced them husband and wife. Kenneth kissed his bride while 500 guests applauded. But in the back row, Adunni sat with her face in her hands, her sister Adetutu comforting her. That boy will regret this, Adetutu whispered fiercely. I promise you, Adunni, he will regret this day. Neither of them noticed the young videographer who had captured everything. Not the official wedding video, but the raw, unedited footage of a mother's humiliation. By tomorrow morning, that video would be viral. And by tomorrow evening, Kenneth Okafor would discover that his perfect new wife had plans for him. Plans that would destroy everything he'd built. The wedding reception flowed with champagne and laughter. Kenneth danced with Veronica, posed for photos with Chief Williams, shook hands with senators and business partners. Not once did he look toward the back of the room where his mother sat. Not once did he notice Veronica whispering with her father, both of them studying documents Kenneth had signed just days before the wedding. Documents he'd barely read. So eager was he to please his new bride. Documents that would prove to be his undoing. As midnight approached and guests began to leave, Adunni stood to go. Grace supported her, helping her walk despite the pain in her knees. At the door, Adunni turned back one last time. Kenneth stood with Veronica on the dance floor, her head on his shoulder, his eyes closed in contentment. "He looks happy," Grace said bitterly. "Enjoy it while it lasts, my son," Adunni whispered. "Because storms are coming. And when they do, you'll remember the woman you made crawl." 3 months after the wedding, Kenneth Okafor was the happiest he'd ever been. Or so he told himself. He and Veronica lived in a newly purchased mansion in Asokoro, Abuja's most exclusive neighborhood. The 12-bedroom estate had cost him nearly everything in his savings, 200 million naira, but Veronica had insisted they needed a home worthy of the Williams name. "Baby, we can't live in that tiny penthouse anymore," she'd pouted. "What will people think?" So Kenneth bought the mansion, and the 3 luxury cars Veronica wanted, and the designer wardrobe she needed for society events, and the expensive jewelry she claimed was investment pieces. His business account, once flush with cash, was now running thin. "Don't worry," Veronica would say, kissing his cheek. "Money comes and goes. What matters is that we're building our future together." Kenneth believed her. After all, she loved him. She'd proven it by marrying him despite his humble background, hadn't she? What Kenneth didn't know was that Veronica and her father were building something else entirely. A trap. It started innocently enough. One evening, as they lounged in their new home theater, Veronica brought up a document. "Baby, I need you to sign something." "What is it?" Kenneth asked, barely glancing at the papers. "Just a formality. Since we're married now, I should be added to your business accounts. You know, in case anything happens to you. It's what married couples do, protect each other." Kenneth hesitated. "All of them." "Kenneth." Veronica's voice turned cold. "Are you saying you don't trust me? Your own wife." "No, of course I trust you." "Then sign. Unless." She stood, her eyes welling with tears. "Unless you married me thinking I was after your money." "Veronica, no. Because if that's what you think, maybe we made a mistake. Maybe I should go back to Daddy's house." "Stop." Kenneth grabbed the papers and signed quickly, not reading the fine print. "There. See? I trust you completely." Veronica's tears vanished instantly, replaced by a brilliant smile. "I knew you loved me." What Kenneth had just signed was a comprehensive power of attorney, giving Veronica control over every aspect of his business empire. His real estate holdings, his investment portfolios, his company shares, even the rights to his properties. The next morning, Kenneth woke to find Veronica already dressed in a business suit. "Where are you going?" he mumbled sleepily. "To the bank, baby. Just handling some paperwork. Go back to sleep." By noon, Veronica had transferred 70% of Kenneth's assets into offshore accounts under her name. By evening, she'd sold 2 of his prime properties in Abuja's central business district to her father's company, for half their value. Kenneth knew none of this. In Enugu, Adunni sat in her small rented room, watching the video of her humiliation for the 100th time. It had 20 million views now. The comments were split. Some sympathized with her. Others called her a liar who probably had abandoned her son. But Adunni wasn't watching to relive her pain. She was watching Kenneth's face, studying it, looking for any sign of the boy she'd raised. "Mama, you need to eat something," Grace said, bringing in a plate of jollof rice. "I'm not hungry." "You haven't been hungry for 3 months." Grace knelt beside her mother. "Mama, forget him. He made his choice." "No child is forgotten by his mother," Adunni said quietly, "even when he forgets her." Aunt Adetutu burst into the room, her phone in hand. Adunni, you need to see this." She showed them a blog post from a popular gossip website. "Trouble in Paradise? Kenneth Okafor's wife spotted house hunting in London without her husband." The article included photos of Veronica viewing luxury apartments in Chelsea, accompanied by a handsome British Nigerian man who was definitely not Kenneth. "Who is that?" Grace demanded. Adetutu scrolled through the comments. "According to people here, that's Damian Hughes, Veronica's ex-boyfriend. Apparently, they dated for 5 years before she suddenly married Kenneth." Adunni studied the photos. Veronica was laughing, touching Damian's arm. looking at him the way a woman looks at a man she loves. Nothing like how she looked at Kenneth in their wedding photos, beautiful but cold. She's playing him, Adunni whispered. Good, Grace said bitterly. Let him suffer like you suffered. But Adunni stood, a strange energy filling her. No. No child of mine will be destroyed by a snake woman, no matter what he did to me. Mama, he deserves whatever he gets. Perhaps. Adunni's eyes hardened with determination. But I will not stand by and watch my son be devoured. Grace, call Benson. I need to speak with him. Kenneth's friend? The best man? Mama, why? Because Benson tried to stop the crawling. I saw him. He knows Kenneth is making mistakes. Adunni grabbed her phone. And if Kenneth won't listen to his mother, maybe he'll listen to his friend. Meanwhile, in Abuja, Kenneth was beginning to notice strange things. His company accountant called, confused. Sir, why did you authorize the sale of the Garki properties? Those were our most profitable assets. I didn't authorize any sale, Kenneth said. But sir, the paperwork has your signature, or rather, Mrs. Okafor's signature on your behalf. She has power of attorney. Kenneth's blood ran cold. What? He rushed to his home office and began going through files. The truth emerged slowly, painfully, like a knife twisting in his gut. Properties sold. Accounts emptied. Investments liquidated. His business empire, built over 10 years of hard work, was being systematically dismantled. By his wife. Veronica! He shouted through the mansion. Veronica! She appeared in the doorway, perfectly calm. Yes, darling. What have you done? The Garki properties, the business accounts. I've been reorganizing our assets, she said smoothly, making things more efficient. Without telling me? You did give me power of attorney, Kenneth. Remember? Because you trust me. Her smile was sharp as glass. Or are you saying you don't trust your own wife? Kenneth stared at this woman, his wife of 3 months, and suddenly saw a stranger. I want to see all the transaction records. Now. Of course, darling. But I'm late for an appointment. We'll discuss this tonight, yes? Veronica kissed his cheek and walked away, leaving Kenneth standing in his emptied office, finally understanding what he'd married. A beautiful predator. His phone rang. Unknown number. Hello. Kenneth, this is Benson. We need to talk. It's about Veronica. I've discovered something you need to know. I'm listening. Not over the phone. Can you meet me? And Kenneth. Benson paused. Bring your mother. You're going to need her. My mother? Why would I need? Because from what I've discovered, she's the only person who can save you now. The only person who actually gives a damn whether you survive this. Kenneth hung up, his hands shaking. The walls of his expensive mansion suddenly felt like a prison. Kenneth sat in a small restaurant and was far from the elite circles where he usually dined. Across from him sat Benson, looking uncomfortable but determined. And beside Benson, to Kenneth's shock, sat his mother. Adunni looked older than Kenneth remembered. Thinner. The humiliation from 3 months ago had aged her. Mama, he whispered. She didn't respond, her eyes fixed on the table. Your mother agreed to come because I begged her, Benson said. Not for you, but because she's a better person than you deserve. Kenneth flinched at the words but said nothing. Benson opened his laptop. Kenneth, do you remember my cousin Chidinma? She works at Sterling Bank's foreign transfer division. Vaguely. She called me yesterday, concerned. She'd processed several suspicious transactions and realized the name was familiar. Your wife, Veronica. Benson turned the screen. Kenneth saw a list of wire transfers, each one moving millions of naira from his accounts to various offshore destinations. Cayman Islands, Switzerland, Dubai. That's over 300 million naira, Kenneth said, his voice hollow. 347 million to be exact, Benson confirmed. But it gets worse. He pulled up social media photos. Veronica in London with Damian Hughes. Veronica in Paris. Veronica in Dubai. Always with Damian, never with Kenneth. She's been planning this from the beginning, Benson said. My contacts tell me Veronica and Damian never broke up. She married you on her father's advice as a business move. A business move? Think about it. Chief Williams wanted access to your real estate portfolio. You own properties in prime locations he couldn't acquire legally. You'd outbid him too many times. So he sent his daughter to seduce you, marry you, and strip everything from you. Kenneth felt sick. That's impossible. She loves me. She chose me over men from her own social class. She chose your assets, Benson interrupted. And you made it easy by signing away everything without reading a single document. Adunni finally spoke, her voice quiet but firm. Show him the rest. Benson hesitated, then pulled up another document. This is Veronica's plan, Kenneth. I got it from someone in Chief Williams's office. It's an email between Veronica and her father. Kenneth read, his world crumbling with each word. Daddy, everything is proceeding perfectly. Kenneth signed the power of attorney without question. You were right. His desperation to please me makes him stupid. I've liquidated the major assets and moved the funds offshore. Damien has already purchased the London apartment for us. The fool actually thinks I love him. He's so eager to distance himself from his poverty background that he'll do anything I ask. Making his mother crawl was brilliant. It showed everyone he has no family loyalty. No one will sympathize with him when I file for divorce. I'll keep him around for another 2 months, just long enough to access the remaining assets. Then I'll claim abuse, get a restraining order, and take everything in the divorce settlement. By this time next year, I'll be in London with Damien, and Kenneth will be exactly where he belongs, broke and forgotten. Your devoted daughter, Veronica. Kenneth couldn't breathe. The words blurred as tears filled his eyes. She planned everything? Including making you humiliate your mother, Benson said. That was strategic. She wanted to isolate you, make sure you had no family support when she destroyed you. And you helped her do it. Kenneth looked at Adunni, who sat silently, her face expressionless. Mama, he choked out. Mama, I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Grace's voice came from behind them. She'd been listening from another table. Sorry doesn't erase what you did. You made our mother crawl like an animal in front of hundreds of people, because that witch told you to. I didn't know. You didn't want to know. Grace slammed her hand on the table. You were so desperate to fit into their world that you betrayed your own blood. And now that same world is eating you alive. Grace, enough, Adunni said softly. No, Mama. He deserves to hear this. He deserves to lose everything just like. I said enough. Adunni's voice cracked like a whip. She turned to Kenneth, her eyes hard. My daughter is angry because she loves you, even though you don't deserve it. Just as I love you even though you made me crawl. We are here not because you earned our help, but because you are our blood. Kenneth wept openly, his face in his hands. But hear me clearly, Kenneth Okafor, Adunni continued. I will help you. I will save you from this snake woman and her snake family. But when this is over you will make amends. Not with money, I don't want your money. You will make amends by becoming the man I raised you to be, not the man you've become. How? Kenneth looked up, desperate. How can we stop her? She has power of attorney. She's moved everything offshore. I have nothing left. Adunni smiled coldly. You have nothing left. But I have something Veronica doesn't know about. She pulled out an old folder yellowed with age. When you started your real estate business 10 years ago, you needed collateral for your first major property purchase. Remember? You came to me desperate, saying the bank wouldn't give you a loan. Kenneth nodded slowly. I gave you my land deeds, 3 plots in Enugu that your father left me. You used them as collateral. You promised to transfer them back to me once you were successful, but you never did. I forgot about those. Men always forget what they owe women, Aunt Adetutu muttered. Those plots are now in the heart of Enugu's new government district, Adunni continued. Worth about £500 million naira. And legally they're still in my name. You only used them as collateral, never transferred ownership. Benson's eyes widened. Which means Veronica can't touch them. Exactly, Adunni said. And I know someone who wants to buy them. Someone who has been trying to acquire that land for years. The Enugu state government, for their new secretariat complex. Kenneth stared at his mother. You're going to sell the land? No, Adunni corrected. You are going to sell it. I will transfer it to you, you will complete the sale, and you will use that money to fight back. To hire lawyers. To freeze Veronica's transactions. To expose Chief Williams's scheme. But Mama, that land. It's all you have left of Papa. It's your security. My son is my security, Adunni said firmly. Even when he forgets who he is. Even when he forgets who raised him. Family is always security. Grace stood up. Mama, no. Let him suffer. He doesn't deserve. Grace. Adunni's voice was sharp. When you have children, you will understand. A mother doesn't love her child because he deserves it. She loves him because he is hers. Even when he breaks her heart. Even when he makes her crawl. The restaurant was silent except for the sound of Kenneth's sobbing. Benson put a hand on his friend's shoulder. Kenneth, your mother is giving you a second chance. Don't waste it. Kenneth looked at Adunni, truly looked at her for the first time in months. He saw the pain in her eyes, the exhaustion in her face, the arthritis in her hands from decades of hard labor. And he saw love. Unconditional, undeserved, unshakable love. I don't know if I can fix this, Mama, he whispered. Then you will learn, Adunni said. Starting now. She stood gathering her bag. Tomorrow morning we go to my lawyer in Enugu. We transfer the land to you, sell it to the government, and use that money to destroy Veronica Williams before she destroys you completely. And after? Kenneth asked. After we stop her? Adunni looked at her son for a long moment. After you rebuild. Not the fake life you built on shame and lies, but a real life based on truth and family. The life I raised you to have. She walked toward the exit, Grace following behind her. Mama! Kenneth called out. Adunni paused. Thank you, Kenneth said. Thank you for not giving up on me. I'm your mother, Adunni replied simply. Giving up is not what mothers do. The war against Veronica Williams began at dawn. Kenneth stood in his Enugu lawyer's office with his mother, sister, Aunt Adetutu, and Benson signing papers that would transfer Adunni's ancestral land to him. The government buyer was already waiting, eager to close the deal. By noon, Kenneth had 450 million naira in a secure account Veronica couldn't access. Now, Adunni said, we strike back. The first move was surgical. Kenneth hired Lagos's most ruthless corporate lawyer, Barrister Afani Nwosu, who specialized in matrimonial asset recovery. Mr. Okafor, Barrister Nwosu said, reviewing the documents, your wife made one critical mistake. She moved money too fast, too obviously. This isn't asset management, this is theft. We can prove intent to defraud. Within 24 hours, court orders froze all of Veronica's offshore accounts. Her credit card stopped working. Her access to the mansion's accounts was blocked. And most importantly, a court injunction prevented her from selling any more of Kenneth's properties. Veronica was in London when it happened. She was having brunch with Damien at an expensive restaurant in Mayfair when her platinum card was declined. That's impossible, she told the waiter. Try again. Declined again. Her phone rang. Chief Williams. Veronica, what have you done? Her father's voice was panicked. I just received court papers. Kenneth's lawyers have frozen everything. That's impossible. Kenneth doesn't have money for lawyers. I took it all. Well, he found money somewhere. And now they're demanding a full audit of every transaction you made. Veronica, if they prove you committed fraud, we could both go to prison. Daddy, calm down. It's probably just his mother lending him money for lawyers. How much could she have? We'll crush this easily. But Veronica didn't know about the land sale. She didn't know Kenneth now had nearly 500 million naira to fight her. And she definitely didn't know that Adunni Okafor was personally orchestrating every move in this war. Back in Abuja, Adunni sat in Kenneth's office, the one in his company that Veronica hadn't managed to sell yet, studying files with Benson. This woman is smart, Adunni admitted. She covered her tracks well. But she got greedy. How do you mean? Benson asked. Look here. Adunni pointed to a transaction record. She sold Kenneth's property in Maitama to her father's company for 100 million naira. But the property was valued at 250 million. That's not just bad business, that's obvious fraud. She thought Kenneth was too broken to notice or too weak to fight back. Grace entered carrying more files. Mama, I found something. Veronica has been paying money to someone named Sandra Chukwu. Monthly transfers, always 20,000 naira. Who is Sandra Chukwu? Adunni asked. Kenneth, who had been quiet, suddenly looked up. My former secretary. I fired her 6 months before the wedding. Veronica said she was stealing office supplies. Why would Veronica pay your former secretary? Benson wondered aloud. Let's find out. Adunni picked up her phone. 2 days later, Sandra Chukwu sat nervously in the same office, facing Kenneth and his mother. I didn't want to do it, Sandra said, tears streaming down her face. But she threatened me. She said she'd make sure I never worked in Abuja again. Do what? Kenneth asked. Plant evidence. Mrs. Veronica had me create fake emails from your account, making it look like you were having affairs with clients. She has them saved, ready to use in the divorce case. She was going to claim you were abusive and unfaithful to get a bigger settlement. Kenneth felt sick. What else? She had me forge your signature on some documents. Papers that made it look like you'd agreed to give her full ownership of everything even before the marriage. I'm so sorry, sir. I needed the money, my mother was sick. It's okay, Adunni said gently. Will you testify to this in court? Sandra nodded. Yes, ma. I kept copies of everything. I was afraid she'd turn on me eventually, so I protected myself. Smart girl, Aunt Adetutu muttered. With Sandra's testimony and documents, the case against Veronica became ironclad. But Adunni wasn't satisfied with just legal victory. She humiliated my son publicly, Adunni said. Made him humiliate me. Now she'll face the same. Mama, what are you planning? Kenneth asked nervously. Adunni smiled. I'm planning to give Lagos society something to talk about. Abandon yourself. The Lagos Social Elite Annual Gala was the event of the year. Every wealthy family, every politician, every celebrity attended. Chief Williams was on the planning committee. And Veronica, despite being in London, had planned to fly back for it. What Veronica didn't know was that Adunni had bought a table at the gala. An expensive table right next to the Williams family table. The night of the gala, the Eco Hotel ballroom glittered with wealth. Chief Williams arrived with his wife and Veronica, who had flown in that morning, confident that her father's lawyers would handle Kenneth's little tantrum. Then she saw them. Kenneth sat at the neighboring table, clean-shaven, wearing a sharp suit. Beside him sat his mother Adunni, dressed in a stunning gold and emerald Ankara dress that made her look regal. Grace was there and Benson and Aunt Adetutu. But most shocking was the guest of honor at their table, the governor of Enugu State, who had personally bought Adunni's land and called her a woman of integrity. What are they doing here? Veronica hissed to her father. I don't know, Chief Williams muttered, his face pale. The MC took the stage. Ladies and gentlemen, before dinner, we have a special presentation. Mrs. Adunni Okafor has requested a moment to address you all. Veronica's blood ran cold. Adunni stood and walked to the stage with the confidence of a woman who had nothing left to lose and everything to say. The same stage where, 6 months ago, she'd been humiliated at her son's wedding. Good evening, distinguished guests. Adunni began, her voice clear and strong. 6 months ago, many of you attended my son Kenneth's wedding at this very hotel. Some of you watched as I was forced to crawl down the aisle on my knees. Some of you recorded it. Some of you shared it. The room fell deadly silent. Tonight, I want to tell you the truth about that day. The truth about why it happened. And the truth about the woman who orchestrated it. Veronica stood up. This is slander. You can't. Sit down, Mrs. Okafor, Adunni said calmly, or security will escort you out. I paid for my table, same as you. A screen lowered behind Adunni. Images appeared, bank statements, emails, transaction records, all showing Veronica's systematic theft of Kenneth's wealth. My son married a woman named Veronica Williams, Adunni continued. A woman who pretended to love him while planning to destroy him. A woman who made him humiliate his own mother as part of a scheme to isolate him from his family. A woman who stole over 300 million naira from him, while carrying on an affair with her ex-boyfriend. Photos of Veronica and Damien in London appeared on screen. Intimate photos. Kissing photos. The audience gasped. But what Veronica Williams didn't know, Adunni said, her voice growing stronger, is that a mother's love is more powerful than any scheme. That family, real family, doesn't abandon you when you fall. That the same woman you made crawl would be the woman who saves you. She turned to face Veronica directly. You tried to break my son. You tried to erase his past, steal his future, and destroy his soul. But you failed. Because you made one mistake. You underestimated his mother. Adani gestured to the screen where legal documents appeared. These are court orders freezing all your assets. These are testimonies from people you paid to lie and cheat. These are evidence of your fraud, your theft, your conspiracy with your father to destroy an innocent man. Chief Williams tried to leave, but security blocked the exits. The governor had requested they stay. Tomorrow morning, Adani said, Kenneth will file for annulment of your marriage based on fraud. You will return every naira you stole or face criminal prosecution. Your father's company will be investigated for its part in this scheme. And your name, the precious Williams name you're so proud of, will be associated not with wealth and power, but with greed and betrayal. Veronica's face crumbled. Around her, Lagos's elite whispered and pointed. Phones came out, recording her humiliation just as they'd recorded Adani's. But I want to make one thing clear, Adani said, her voice softening. I don't do this for revenge. I do this for justice, for truth, and to teach a lesson that some of you need to learn. Wealth without character is worthless. Status without integrity is hollow. And anyone who builds their life on lies will eventually crawl on their knees. Not because someone forces them to, but because the weight of their own deception will bring them down. She returned to her table while the ballroom erupted in chaos. Veronica fled in tears, her father following. Society bloggers frantically typed on their phones. By morning, the story would be everywhere. Kenneth stood and hugged his mother tightly. Thank you, Mama. Thank you. Don't thank me yet, Adani said. We still have work to do. Over the next 3 months, everything unfolded exactly as Adani had planned. The annulment was granted. Veronica was forced to return the stolen money. Though much of it had already been spent, her father had to sell properties to cover the debt. Chief Williams's company was investigated and fined heavily for the fraudulent property transactions. Veronica fled to London with Damien, her reputation in Nigeria destroyed. Ironically, Damien left her 6 months later when her money ran out. Kenneth's business slowly recovered. He sold some properties, downsized his life, and focused on rebuilding with integrity rather than image. But the real change was in Kenneth himself. 1 year after the gala, Kenneth stood at the grand opening of the Adani Okafor Community Center in Enugu. He'd used part of his recovered wealth to build a skills acquisition center for young people from poor backgrounds, teaching them business, technology, and entrepreneurship. This center is named after my mother, Kenneth told the crowd gathered for the opening. A woman I once treated worse than a stranger. A woman I made crawl because I was ashamed of where I came from. A woman who saved me even after I broke her heart. He looked at Adani, who sat in the front row with Grace and Aunt Adetutu. Mama, I can never undo what I did to you. That shame will live with me forever. But I promise you this. I will spend the rest of my life becoming the man you raised me to be. Not the man who cared about status and wealth, but the man who values family, integrity, and truth. The crowd applauded, but Adani's eyes were full of tears. After the ceremony, as the sun set over Enugu, Kenneth and Adani walked through the center together. Are you happy, Mama? Kenneth asked. Happy is complicated, Adani said. I'm proud. Proud that you learned. Proud that you're changing. But the scar from that day, it will always be there, my son. I know. Kenneth stopped walking and turned to face her. And I will spend every day trying to heal it. Adani touched her son's face gently. You already are, Kenneth. You already are. In the distance, Grace was teaching a class of young girls about financial literacy. Aunt Adetutu was organizing the center's market skills program. Benson was setting up the technology lab. Family. Real family. Not the fake perfection Kenneth had chased with Veronica, but the messy, complicated, unbreakable bonds of people who loved you even when you didn't deserve it. Kenneth thought about that day at the wedding, about watching his mother crawl, about the man he'd been, so desperate to escape his past that he'd destroyed his present. And he thought about the man he was becoming, humbler, wiser, grateful. "Mama," he said quietly, "I used to think being successful meant leaving the past behind. Now I understand that real success is honoring where you came from while building where you're going." Adunni smiled. "Your father would have said the same thing." As they stood together watching the sun set over the community center, Kenneth made a silent promise. Never again would he forget who he was, where he came from, or who had sacrificed everything to give him a chance at life. Some lessons are learned through wisdom. Others are learned through humiliation, loss, and pain. Kenneth had learned his lesson the hard way. But he had learned it. And in the end, that was all a mother could ask for. The end. Epilogue. 5 years later. The video still existed online. 25 million views of a mother crawling down an aisle while her son watched. But now, when people shared it, the caption was different. "This is what happens when you forget where you came from. But watch what happens when a mother's love refuses to give up." Linked to the video was Kenneth's story. The betrayal, the schemes, the recovery, and the redemption. It had become a cautionary tale about pride, greed, and the power of family. Kenneth never remarried. He poured his energy into his business and his community center, which had now expanded to 3 locations across Nigeria. Adunni, now 67, ran the centers with the same fierce determination she'd once used to sell palm oil. She was featured in magazines as Nigeria's most inspiring mother, and gave speeches about forgiveness, strength, and never giving up on your children. Grace had become a lawyer specializing in matrimonial fraud cases, helping other men and women who'd been scammed by partners like Veronica. And Veronica? She was last seen working as a sales associate in a London boutique, her glamorous life reduced to paying rent on a tiny flat and avoiding calls from creditors. Chief Williams lost his political influence and most of his wealth paying off his debts and legal fees. Justice, as it turned out, had a long memory. But more importantly, so did love. And in the end, love had won. A mother's love is the only investment that never fails. It may break. It may bend. But it will never abandon you even when you